We will start with the attendance roll call of committee members. When I announce your name, please reply. Rod Rydell.
Here.
Jerry Susan.
Here.
Terrific. And Brian Davidson here. Deed signings, I don't know. We have a few. We'll take care of that after the meeting. So, and our next proposed cemetery committee meeting is November 2nd, 2022, 4 p.m. Is that good for you, Rod? Good for you, Jerry? Terrific. Okay, great. So the next is the approval of minutes for both June 1st and September 7th, 2022. Have you gentlemen had a chance to review these minutes, and are there any amendments you'd like to make to them? Okay, hearing none. Is there a motion to accept the June 1st and September 7th, 2022 meeting minutes?
I move to accept the June 1st and September 7th, 2022 meeting minutes of the Cemetery Committee.
Great. Thanks, Rod. Jerry, you second?
I will second that.
Fantastic. So, Rod, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. So we'll next move to our discussion section, D1, CPW staff report. Aaron sporting a new mustache. I like to see it. Looking good, sharp as always.
Thank you. Seasonal. Winter's on the way.
Fantastic.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Aaron McCloskey, Highway and Ground Superintendent. Just a couple of updates from the team. Einstein's is continuing mowing and landscaping maintenance at the cemetery. Obviously, the season is changing. Leaves are starting to fall. We'll be planning a fall cleanup here later this month. Tish has been working on trimming trees and shrubs throughout the cemetery. She is attending virtually. She's at a funeral right now at the cemetery. Lot sales for September. We have 3 full burials and 2 cremations in place. We had 4 single grave lots and 1 cremation lot were sold during the month. Updates on a few projects. A headstone restoration project is ongoing. Our contractor has been working throughout the summer on headstone restoration. About halfway through the stones that were selected for this phase. We'll continue working through the fall as weather allows, and we'll continue again in the spring after a winter kind of recess once it gets too cold to do that type of work. So stones are looking good. Everything is progressing well, and very happy with the work. So Columbarium Subcommittee has been meeting throughout the summertime with staff, and we have a RFP that's been finalized. The most recent comments were integrated into that. And right now it's with our procurement department. We're having a little back and forth discussion on the type of procurement that it's going through, whether it is a building construction or a public works construction, because that determines on how many and how often we have to, or the duration of the solicitation for that. So pushing for public works construction, which will expedite that process. So should have an answer on that, and get that out and get some quotes on the design for the columbarium here very soon for the next meeting. We did have a attendee at the last cemetery committee meeting who was interested in becoming a member. I talked to them after the meeting, and did coordinate with the town manager's office, and that gentleman did receive an appointment letter from the town manager. Currently out of town, unable to be sworn in before tonight's meeting, but anticipates to be present at the November meeting. So we'll have a fourth member for the next meeting, which would be outstanding. I've also been working with Rod, and Rod will give an update on the CPC application, and I have a couple comments on that, but I'll wait for the next agenda item to kind of go over that for the stone wall restoration project that's on the horizon. I would also mention, I guess, take the time, we are still in discussions with a potential purchase for a mausoleum lot. The cemetery committee, for those who don't know, established 4 mausoleum lots. There's 3 mausoleum lots in the new section. Yeah, somebody's interested in purchasing one. We've been in a lot of discussions with them and their representatives. We're currently in possession of kind of final engineering design plans for that. Received a payment from them to do a peer review with our the town's third-party engineering, a structural engineering firm, and we'll be starting that peer review this month. So that's exciting. And once that gets, I think, the final okay with any comments or the final design at that point, we have a draft agreement and that it's been created and just waiting on approval of the final design to kind of move that forward. So that's still active. That's all I have.
Terrific, terrific, thank you. It's how's the process for the building of the mausoleum been going? You haven't built one in 100 years. It must be kind of
It's a lot. It's a lot
learning
back and
all
forth.
to it.
I think it's because of the value of the structure of the project, how much is invested. The town is doing the due diligence of making sure we're doing this process correctly. There's a lot going into it, and it's complicated where a private party is building a structure on town land. They're not actually buying the actual lot. It's more of a lease to use the land and construct something. So we want to make sure that everything is covered. But it's going well. I think the communication has been great. The contractor that's involved, the representative from the individuals that are purchasing the lot. It's been great to work with and everything moving forward. So it's been a lot of moving parts, a lot of different town departments involved in the process, from public works, highway, grounds, cemetery to engineering to the treasurer's office to town manager's office. So it's a lot of parts.
That's terrific. Well, certainly appreciate all the town offices coming together to work on that project.
Absolutely.
Very exciting. You
But
guys will be able to build a blueprint for hopefully the next sale when
Hopefully.
it comes down the road.
Hopefully, and I do anticipate once we have a final design that has been reviewed by engineers, I'll bring that back to the committee to share with the committee to make sure the committee's obviously good with it and everything. So we keep everybody updated, but it is still the same, matches the original concept that the committee had reviewed and approved at prior meeting. So nothing's changed.
Terrific. Great. Jerry, Rod, any questions at all for Aaron on his update? Yeah, terrific, terrific. And Tish, pretty impressive multitasking. I didn't think it was possible to do two things at the same time. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
All
I have
right.
a little reprieve. If I disappear suddenly, that's why.
You understand, absolutely. Okay, great. So moving then to D2, which is our CPC application for the stone wall repair and also the letter of support for that project. So Rod, would you like to give us an update on all the hard work that you've been putting into this?
Well, let's correct the record right from the start and acknowledge the hard work that Aaron and Tish and Justine have put in and continue to put in. So let's make sure we have that straight. But they've been very, very helpful in terms of helping with the preparation and the follow through on all of the aspects of this application. So it's my honor to summarize where we are. Back in September, on September 16th, we had submitted actually the application a day before, and the CPC, the committee, then asked to have a site review of our application on site, which happened on September 24th, Saturday. And Tish and I attended that review, and that went well. We got a lot of questions from the committee at that time. I'll mention some of those questions when I review the presentation that we had given the committee the following week. One of the following that September 24th site review, the committee invited us to give a presentation on September 27th. They invite all applicants to give these presentations and they review. And it's very interesting, the committee assigns several committee members to lead the discussion. Now, Tish and I attended that, and I thought it would be useful if we pulled up the presentation, and I'll just walk you through the presentation that we made, and then give you some comments about how I thought it went and some things that we have to do to follow up. This was the title. The next slide We can go right to the next slide if you don't mind. Justine, thank you. So we started by thanking the CPC for their previous support, and I noticed, Brian, that you incorporated that in the letter. And I think that's really good form. Next slide, please. We specified what the project goal was. It's the restoration of 35 deteriorating stone walls and structures that are distributed among the 3 of the Concord cemeteries. Next slide. Are we okay? Okay.
Sorry, Rod, just was a little outdoor noise, so.
No worries. Okay. May we have the next slide, please, Justine? And in terms of the historical significance, we shamelessly plagiarized with citations, but we did something that Melissa Salfield had written on our behalf. She is the chair of the Concord Historical Commission, and we presented a request to the Historical Commission for a letter of support. And it arrived, regrettably, just a few hours after we had submitted the application. But it will be included in the updated application, which goes in November. So this is what she wrote, and she wrote it eloquently and succinctly, and talked about the 3 cemeteries that we supervise and assist Aaron and Tish and Justine in managing. Can we go to the next slide, please? And we gave a bit of the project history, dating that this effort actually dates back to 2018, when an updated cemetery master plan was issued, which included the goal of restoration of stone walls. We talked about the fact that from 2018 to 2022, that the Public Works Department has conducted repairs on an urgent basis for several stone walls and structures. And then in 2021, working with a contractor, the Public Works completed a comprehensive inventory and evaluation of all stone walls and all stone structures in the cemeteries. Next slide, please. And the assessor was Wright Pierce. The method was a visual inspection, and each structure or stone wall was graded as good, fair, or poor. Of the 116 structures and walls that were reviewed, 54 were assessed as good, requiring no repair. 38 were assessed as fair, that require some repointing, and 24 were in poor condition, that require partial or full reconstruction. Next slide, please. So the restorations that we proposed in our application were broken down and distributed among the cemeteries according to the table that's on this slide. I should just mention to you that every stone wall and stone structure that required a repair, whether it was fair or poor, in South Burying Ground or Old Hill Burying Ground, every single one was included in this grant request. For Sleepy Hollow Cemetery, however, we only included the 20 stone walls and stone structures that required partial or complete reconstruction. The 27 walls and structures that were graded fair or require repointing were not included in this application. And the reason for that has to do with the extent of the budget, and also, frankly, I think it gives the town a chance to evaluate, just how this process is going with the contractor we select, and make some, either if we have to make some adjustments, make some adjustments. And it's my hope that we don't have to go back to the town, but rather we can get the monies, which are substantial, for those other 27 structures, that we can go get those monies from another source. Next slide, please. So we gave some visuals, 2 stone walls in the South Burying Ground, 8 stone walls and 5 stone structures in Old Hill Burying Ground. Next slide, please. And then in Sleepy Hollow Cemetery, we gave them 2 examples. 1 stone structure, the stone steps that lead up to the Daniel Chester French Cemetery. which really do need to be reconstructed. There's a lot of loose stones there. And then here's a retaining wall that's just on the border of Bedford Street, Route 62. You can see the stones that are falling out. You can see how the retaining wall is bowing out at one point. We want to try and see if we can get this repaired before we have, a more serious sort of event here with a total collapse of the wall. Next slide, please. And then we just ended with the funding request is $340,000. We're basically matching that and slightly exceeding it by using cemetery fund, other sources, some in-kind, some previously performed work to the tune of $345,800 for a total budget of a little over $685,000. And then the last slide was just to open it up for discussion. So that was the presentation. There were many questions. One I've just covered. One was the question of why didn't we include the 27 structures that require some repointing. Those actually are very expensive, and we had made a decision early on with Aaron and Tish and Justine that it just didn't seem right to go for something which was going to go in excess of $1 million. That's the first thing. Second thing, second observation, 2 questions came up, which we're going to follow up on before we send in the final application in November with all of our letters of support. The 2 questions were, would we please consider using or considering contacting contractors that do historic preservation of stone walls and stone structures as opposed to just restoration. And they were talking, one of the CPC committee members talked about the restoration of some brick walkways in Buttrick's mansion and talked about how the historic, they had used a historic restorations contractor and with very, very good results. They were very happy about that. So we can take a look at that. Aaron, my personal opinion is that this may bust the budget in a way that we would probably find overwhelming. So I'm not so sure we can do it, but they asked the question, and it's good form to honor that request and to see if we can find an answer. The second question which came up repeatedly were people asking that made a mention how beautiful it was to see the moss and the lichens growing on the face of the rock and the top of the stone walls, and how they would hope that we would find a way to replace the stones in such a way as not to disturb that. I will happily look into it, but my expectation is that doing so will create an excess of cost that we will probably find makes this work not feasible within the budget. But there is a way to address this. We can either naturally let nature re-inoculate the stone walls, because anywhere there's lichens and moss growing now, there will be lichens and moss growing again in that same environment. We might be able to speed it up by just grinding up some lichens and moss and spraying it on the stones and just seeding the stones with the material. But in either way, I think that there are ways to address this. We don't have to be specific in terms of our response to the committee, but we should make an effort to address it. And then finally, and Tish can comment on this, it was striking to me that the committee was so complimentary about the application. Many committee members, nearly all committee members, talked about how they appreciated the clarity, they appreciated the detail, they appreciated what we were doing in terms of the application and the way that the application had been prepared. And to me, that was a very important lesson. The fact of the matter is We just followed the directions on what they wanted in the application. We just followed the directions. So maybe just following the directions gives you 90% of the way to a win. But that was, I think, a very, very important lesson, and one which I think we should carry forward as we go to other granting agencies or come back to CPC in the future. It was remarkable to me that it just seemed excessively effusive during the meeting. Anyway, that's the report. We're in great shape. We have a meeting with the Public Works Commission next week. I'll modify this presentation, Aaron, just so we list it so it's for the Public Works Commission. We use the same presentation. I'll forward a copy of the grant application and this slide deck to them. We'll ask them for a letter of support. We've now got a letter of support from Friends of Sleepy Hollow, the Historic Commission, the Cemetery Committee, and the Public Works Commission. I know folks have asked if we considered talking to other groups like the Daughters of the American Revolution, and possibly some of the abutters who abut the Old Hill Burying Ground. I just haven't had the opportunity to do that. I'll try and follow up on that, but we may be running out of time for letters of support. Anyway, that's where things stand. By the end of October, we'll update the application to include all the letters of support that we received. I'll put in an addendum that at least acknowledges that we heard the questions that the committee asked and that we're doing things to address whatever we agree upon as a committee in early November after our meeting. We will include in that application, and then we'll submit it. And so that's the report.
Thanks, Rod. That's a great presentation. Really appreciate it. Jerry, do you have any comments on Rod's presentation?
No, very good. I appreciate it. Very thorough. And yeah, that's a good point. You know, when someone says, hey, nice job on the applications, it's a good sign, you know?
No, it's a good sign. I'm optimistic that we'll get the money, or that will be recommended to receive the money. So, yeah.
You know, just listening to the presentation, Rod, you know, like the question too with the moss and lichen, you know, I think it's just so important to stress that, you know, these walls are aesthetically beautiful, but really they're functional, you know, they're structural, you know, and so as much as we can, of course, to keep that beautiful aesthetic, but it's more than just, you know, being a decorative wall, or, you know, they truly function in a structural sense. And so I think, you know, that it does have to take the priority that, you know, that there's structural integrity behind them, versus their decorative aspects. The other thing is, you know, how can we help you, Rod? You know, I'm happy to reach out to the DAR if you'd like, you know, or if there's any other folks, just to kind of help. You've certainly carried a lot of the weight on this project, and is there any way that, you know, I'm sure Jerry would be willing to help as well, any way we can help and plug in to be a force multiplier for you?
Oh, that's great. Thank you for offering. If you know anyone on the DAR, then we can get into a meeting between now and, you know, the November deadline for sending letters of support. Please reach out to them. That would be very helpful. With the abutters, I kind of have mixed feelings about that. I think we'll be working with the abutters if we get the money anyway. I suspect there'll be permits to have, and there'll be people to contact when we start repairing the walls that abut the residences on Lexington Road. I think there'll be plenty of opportunity to talk about that with them, and any concerns that they have may be probably better addressed at that time. So
that seems fair. What about, I think we had talked also about reaching out to the commerce in downtown, you know, that group.
I did. At least it was forwarded on our behalf, but we've not gotten any follow-up from them. So I haven't heard back from them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say I don't know anybody on the DAR specifically, but I'll do my best to try and reach out to them before the November, and I'll let Aaron know our progress, just so we don't run afoul of any rules or whatnot, but that we can keep it focused. Okay.
Okay, great. And if you can set something up, we'll go give the presentation and explain what's going on and, carry it from there. Great.
And so we have a letter that has been drafted. I didn't draft it, but I thought it was terrific. I had no problems with the substance. A few maybe small things. It's just one. I think we talked about the Old Hill Burying Grounds as in plural. I think that it is singular, so it should just be grounds. And we referred to the Main Street Cemetery in the letter. I think that should be the South Burying Ground, and then put Main Street in maybe parentheses. So folks, for those who are just unfamiliar with the name South Burying Ground, they know which one it is. And just a few other maybe small edits, but nothing substantive. Throw it to you guys. Rod, Jerry, do you have any substantive changes that you'd like to make to the letter?
I have no substantive changes. You caught the grammatical typo type of corrections that I was going to mention. So this is great. This is great.
Terrific. Then can I get a motion to accept the letter of support from the Cemetery Committee to Concord Communities Preservation Committee with the suggested edits?
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Great.
I'll
Rod?
second it.
Terrific. Jerry,
Aye.
Rod,
Aye.
and myself as an aye.
Do you want to send me, is that you said you got a couple other edits?
Just small, yeah. I'm
Yeah,
happy
if
to-
you just want to email it to me?
Yeah, sure. And
right.
I also have them written down.
Oh,
Or
perfect.
if that-
Okay.
Yeah, we can just take that. We can
Just to
take
stick that, yeah, okay,
Right.
great.
I would.
Yeah, please.
Rod, I would also just say, for next week's meeting, we can maybe talk offline. I already have a letter that's drafted for them, for the Public Works Commission, and then the presentation, you can send that to me, and then we have a package we prepare for them through the director that goes to the Public Works Commission.
Okay, do you want me to send a copy of the application as well in case one of the commissioner members wants to dive into the details?
So I have that. I've already prepped the packet for them, or our contribution to the packet for them. So I have the application. If you're gonna update any slides, send those directly to me. And then
Okay.
I would only need the slideshow the day before the meeting, but I have the packet. My packet items were due basically today, so those are already pretty much done.
I can give you the slide deck tonight so that you have it by first thing in the morning, tomorrow
Okay,
morning,
that's
unless you're going to send it out. All I'm going to do is just change the date, and in the lower left-hand corner, it just says who the presentation is given to, and that's the only changes.
Perfect. Yeah, if you want to send that my way, that's the only thing that I would need, and I have. it
Okay.
prepared.
Okay, I'll do that tonight. Okay.
Great, okay, we'll move on to D3, which is chair comments. Just have just a few short ones. Was able to attend the Friends of Sleepy Hollow's 20th breakfast, which was just fantastic, well attended. Food was great. Had a fabulous presentation on a lot of the headstones. I think we had actually had the individual in, and kind of she went through our presentation a few meetings ago, or at least the pictures of the headstones that she wanted to use. I think everybody walked away from that presentation learning a little bit more about the cemetery that they hadn't known. Even the seasoned cemetery experts, I'm sure, walked away with some better insights. And Kevin, as MC, just did a fabulous job. So it was a terrific event and well attended, like I said. And the second piece is we have our old friend Andrea Solomon, as many in your Jerry, I know you know, and Rod. So Andrea was on just shortly when Jerry and I started as just our rookie season. She was already a seasoned expert on the cemetery. In fact, Rod, you brought up the 2018 master plan, and Andrea was spearheaded the creation of that, or at least the rehabilitation of that plan. And so much of the work we continue to do today is thanks in large part to Andrea and all her efforts that she put on when she's committee. She's serving as the liaison from the Friends of Sleepy Hollow Cemetery. So Andrea, welcome. Very happy to see you.
Nice to see you guys.
Yeah, so she'll be attending our meetings in the future and reporting back to the Friends. And I think it's just one of the best committee and then public support groups interaction. I think we really function so well all together and do so much for the cemetery and for the town. So it's just wonderful to have you with us. So thank you. So before we'll open it up, any committee member comments, anything anybody would like to raise or issues?
Brian, if I may.
Sure, Jerry.
I just want to express some appreciation for Tish. I recently spent some time at the cemetery in the Pines section, kind of getting a look at the day in the life of a cemetery, you know, opening a grave and all of that. And there's a lot of detail, and there's a lot of attention, and there's a lot of history. And I just got a little taste of it, but it was really, I was really glad to do it. I hope for the chance to do it again, to spend some time there.
Thank you, Jerry. Yes, Tish.
Next time I'm giving you a shovel.
Thanks, Jerry. Appreciate those comments. Tish is a town resource that's we all love and appreciate. And her job certainly requires having a lot of different skill sets, from operating a backhoe to being able to interact with people in some of the worst moments of their lives. It's a lot of skills that she brings to the table. We're lucky to have her. So even sitting in the car, Tish, it's impressive, man. I'm telling you, looks great. All right, so we can open it up for public comment, but I don't see anybody in the public on the screen or in the room. Andrea, you're the biggest, closest we have to public. All right, wonderful, terrific. All right, seeing no further business, we should move to I'll entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting. Do I have a second? Gary, I see you raising your hand as a second. Thank you. So Rod?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
And myself is an aye. Great. Thanks, guys. Thanks. Appreciate everybody's time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Nice.
Bye.
Good night now.
Bye.